Alrighty, I have Jean Edelman with me here. I'm Courtney Randstrom. You can read our bios on the app. This is going to be real quick because we only have 20 minutes. So, Jean, what is your goal for today? What do you want people to take away from your session?
Well, nice to be here, Courtney. My goal for each and every one of you today is for you to connect the dots between what you're eating, what you're exposing yourself to, how you're living your life. All these dots connect to our health, our long-term health. And I wish that for you today.
Cool. All right. So, can you tell us a little bit about your 7 pillars?
So I talk a lot about self-care because the only way that you can be the best version of yourself is if you're taking care of yourself. And so there's 7 pieces to that. The first is our food. What are we eating? How are we eating? When are we eating? Are we drinking enough water during the day? Are we sleeping? We should have a morning routine and a night routine. Are we breathing? Yes, we are breathing every day because we're walking around, but there is a better way to bring breath through our body. Are we moving? Are we practicing yoga? Are we having nice walks during the day? And are we out in nature? Are we getting this beautiful sunshine? What a gorgeous day today, but are we getting enough of that? And lastly, are we managing our emotions? We are human beings, and life is about being triggered. And are we managing these emotions? Are we responding versus reacting? Those are the 7 pillars.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about that last one. So, one thing I think about a lot is you're not supposed to feel good all the time. The balance is intentional, right? So what do we do when we have these emotions or these thoughts that are really trying or testing us? How do we not act on them in a way that is detrimental to our health?
Right. So that's the opportunity of learning good breath. So anybody practice yoga? Anybody? So we know good breath, bringing it through our body. And so we meet somebody, they say something, or we're dealing with a client and there's a situation and for some reason, it triggers us. We get angry, we get frustrated, we get sad. And it's being able to take some breaths, take a pause, step back so that we're not reacting, and we can compassionately respond and help the individual instead of it being a negative interaction.
Okay, good. So tell me a little bit about your self-care journey and what got you to where you are now.
Thank you. That's a good question. Self-care are baby steps that we take throughout our life. I, at 63, did not have all these wonderful self-care tools when I was 23, okay? So Rick and I, we were building our business. I was diving every day, sacrificing, just every bit of energy was going into building this business, taking care of our staff, taking care of our clients. And it really wasn't until about 2005 when I did a self-check and said, wow, I cannot continue this way. And so it is baby steps. It's learning about ourselves. What are our boundaries? What little things can we do each day to take care of ourselves? And I know everybody's busy. You have children, you have families, you have clients, you have schedules, you've got commitments. But there are moments that we can take in our day for ourselves. And that's the key. That's the tool that we need to bring into our life every day.
Okay, so some people might say, this is a little bit woo-woo for me. I don't want to do all this self-care stuff. So how do you meet people where they're at and say, you know what, self-care is really important. It does feel a little bit out there for some people, but how can we make it more accessible? And what are a few baby steps that people can take?
Well, I think it's awareness, okay? So it's just being aware. Think about a situation you've been in and you've walked away not feeling too good. So it's just, okay, that was the situation. I felt like this. Maybe I don't want to do that again. Or our food. Sometimes we'll eat something and we don't feel good. Well, ding, we shouldn't eat that again. So it's just, it can be woo-woo if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be. It's self-awareness. It's self-awareness. It's learning about ourselves. That's what I think. Yeah.
And why don't you tell me a little bit about how you developed your own mindfulness and meditation practice? So I think this is critical. We were talking
Right.
about this for a few minutes beforehand, and I don't think people realize, one, you can't do mindfulness wrong. Like,
Right.
there's,
Absolutely.
you literally can't screw it up, so
Yep.
you might as well
Yep.
try it. And two, it can take 1 minute or 5 hours. Like, you can
Right.
do a mindfulness practice that lasts all day. So I don't want to take over from
Yeah.
Jean,
No.
but I wanted to give you some context that we had this conversation in advance. So tell me a little bit on how you worked mindfulness into a busy schedule.
Right. So I think there's a misconception. And I read this really great book, and the author was like, this is meditation. This is mindfulness. And it really is just taking these moments in your day. So she talks about mindfulness being cooking, listening to music, taking a walk. Um, you don't have to sit and meditate for a half hour. You could just be sitting here right now, taking a nice deep breath, taking in the sun, and letting these thoughts float by. So there's your moment, and so you could be working really hard during the day. Maybe you take a minute and go take a walk outside. So it doesn't have to be this official, I need to sit on and cross my legs, and it doesn't have to be that. If you can do that, more power to you. I can't do that. But I can take a walk, I can cook, I can listen to some music, and I can relax and let the thoughts flow.
Right.
So, yeah.
So the book that Jean was talking about is called Spirited by Rebecca Rosen. Highly recommend. Another one that we recommend is Peak Mind by Amishi Jha, and she talks a lot about the biology behind the importance of mindfulness. So both of those are fantastic
Great books.
to look at. So we have a question, and I'm going to take some questions just as we go along. How does technology help or hurt these endeavors?
Technology. It drives me crazy. Having 5 emails, I got to track and everything. This is the biggest lesson, and the biggest thing that we need to do is to put our phones down. And that's our moment. Maybe that's our moment. Just put our phone down. Get away from our computer. Turn the volume off. Even take vibrate off. We can't let this control us. We've got to control it and set parameters. So,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Say no.
Say no. All right. So let's talk a little bit about one of your other pillars, food.
Food.
How
Okay.
did you integrate some of these things into your life? So another question that popped up a little bit ago was, how we're all busy. How do we integrate, some of these 7 pillars? Like eating healthy is fantastic, but it can be a little bit trickier. You can't just pick something up on the run. You need to plan out your meals.
Right.
How did you do this for your busy life?
So planning is a huge part. And this is hard for a lot of people, I understand, but you know what? It's baby steps. It's one meal at a time. So maybe, how many of you eat breakfast? It's good. There's so many people that don't even eat breakfast. And so here we've slept all night, and our body needs nourishment. It needs fuel for the day. And so what if the night before we planned our breakfast? Maybe we set out our bowls. Maybe we started our oatmeal and let it sit, and we can just heat it up in the morning. So it's thinking about our day and planning what we need. Are we going to have meetings all day? Are you going to be in meetings all day? Did you plan a break? Did you plan a break and do you have water at your desk? Did you plan a break for lunch? Are you going to have somebody in the afternoon? Can you get a snack and take a break there? So it's taking control of your day. It's planning and knowing what your day is going to be, and then thinking about, okay, I need to eat breakfast. What am I going to do for lunch? And how are we going to plan for dinner?
Okay. So one thing I want to go back to is you talk about in the other side of money, you say patience is the ability to tolerate delay. Talk to me about that. How do we build a patience practice?
That's a good one.
I have 0 patience, by the way, and I also have 2 young kids, so there's no patience in my house.
It's hard.
Ever.
I don't think anybody has any patience. You can see that on the road when you're driving. Patience is awareness of how we are at the moment and being able to breathe, take a moment, take a breath. When we're on the highway and we've got to let somebody in, take a breath, take a moment, be kind, have some compassion. We're all in this together, you know. We're all in this together. So just take a moment. I don't think everybody thinks we're all more important than the other, but we're not. You know, we all need to get to work, or we all need to do this, or we all need to do that. If we had more cooperation and just more patience and took a moment for ourselves and then for each other, I think it would be a better world.
Agreed. Yes. Come here later. We're gonna sing "Kumbaya" at like 7 p.m. tonight. We're gonna hold hands.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. It's great.
No. Okay. So a couple more questions for you. You know, how can people bring their self-care practices into their professional lives, and how can they help their clients? Like, this is mostly an advisor crowd.
Yeah.
How can we, make sure that we're listening to our clients and we're doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing, but with this self-care lens?
So if you're hungry, if you've got too much on your plate, and when the client's sitting in front of you and you're not focused on them and you're thinking about what you got to do, or you're making your list, you're not serving your client. And so it really is about managing yourself and your time and not overscheduling. I think that is because, so maybe you have 3 appointments a day instead of 4, so that you can schedule your breaks, your lunch, because you want to be there, and your breath. If you find that your mind is wandering when somebody's sitting in front of you, well then plant your feet and start breathing. Come back into your body so that you can be there for your client. They need you. They need you. So be there for them.
Right. And one thing important to note about a mindfulness practice, it's not about not having thoughts.
Right.
It's about letting the thoughts float through and say, hey, we're not doing that right now. I'm not going to get a coffee right now. I'm going to sit here and breathe. I'm going to go back to my breath, let the thought go. And you're going to have another one like 1 second later, because our brains are crazy like that. And then you're going to let that one go.
Right.
And you're going to be like, no, I'm not going to have pizza for dinner. I'm going to have quinoa. Whatever. So
this is true.
Okay.
Let it go.
We have a question here that I think ties in nicely as well. We'd love your thoughts on integrating this into company culture.
This was my greatest joy when we had our company, because I got to share this with everybody. I got to make sure that everybody was taking their lunch, that was drinking water, there was water available. It comes from the top. So if you're a planner and you can direct your team, you can make sure, hey, let's all plan a half hour so that we can all go to lunch together, or we can all take that break. Let's not schedule a client. Or just schedule any call. So if you can work together as your team, you will have such loyalty and dedication and devotion, because you're helping them be the best version of themselves. And so, and then it's a pebble in the pond. We put that in the pond that day, and it trickles out to everybody we are talking to. That kindness, that compassion, that self-care that you have for yourself, they can feel that. They know that you don't have bags under your eyes and you're not tapping your foot because you got to get to the next person. They know that you're there for them. So that's important.
Let's talk a little bit about emotion, and how do you manage that react versus respond dichotomy? And how do you manage your own emotions? Like, I'm very open about mental health. I'm on Twitter and talk about the joy and pain that is therapy, but how important it is. How do you walk through that? Work through that in your own life.
So, one, it is a great joy that we can now deal with our emotions. I can say, I'm not feeling good, something's wrong, I'm sad, I'm this, I'm that. That is a great joy and a great relief. But the tools for self-care, journaling is wonderful. Journal, write out these emotions. Nobody has to read it. And when you're done, burn them. Gone. You don't even have to deal with that anymore. That is very symbolic of taking a situation, writing it out, and burning it and letting it go, because all this trauma, all this stuff that we've experienced in our life, we don't want it stuck in our body. We want to let it go. We want to let it flow. And so writing about it and letting it go. Don't be afraid to reach out to a professional. I mean, there's so many avenues now to talk to somebody. Talk to your family if they can help you. But we're not isolated and we're not alone, and we need to share and we need to talk.
Good news, after we sing Kumbaya, we're going to put a fire pit on the beach,
yay!
and you can bring your journals and your paper, and we're just going to light that crap on fire.
I love it.
Just like let it all out. All right, so any tips? We have a few minutes left. All right, any tips for setting boundaries personally and or professionally? And I struggle with this a lot, Jean.
Right.
Partly because I have 2 little kids, so they want something from me all the flippin' time.
Right.
And it's like, no, like I've started to say, hey, I'm eating my dinner. I will help you when I'm done.
Good.
I'm not going to stand up and do that. But that's really hard to get to that point. And my kids are 4 and 7, so I've been failing for 7 years. So
But
how
that's
do you
good. That's really good.
But how do you do that in both professionally and personally?
I think learning to say no is so healthy. I mean, we have got to understand and know ourselves. When is enough enough? When are we tired? When have we overextended ourselves? And knowing that and looking at our calendar and looking at our time and being able to say no and scheduling unscheduled time. So schedule nothing. Try it for 5 minutes and then work to 10 or 15 or a half hour. But schedule unscheduled time so that you have those breaks in your day and learn to say no. I think, and we just have to. Don't book too much. It's okay. Because it's not going away. You guys, you have job security. People need you. They need you every day. So it's okay to spread it out a little bit.
Okay. Let's take a minute and just to wrap up, what are a few things that you would like people to take away from today? Just to kind of consolidate everything. But also, what's something that you wish people would do today for themselves?
Understand that what we expose to ourselves to, what we eat, what we do, it affects our long-term health. If we want good long-term health, we have to start paying attention. Number 2 is find a way to understand a good breath and find some moments in your day. Practice it just once. Practice it while you're here and see how it makes a shift. See how it makes a difference for you. You can be more relaxed. You can be more present.
So, Jean, I have to ask, did your husband take some of this journey with you? I know my husband is like, yeah, mindfulness sounds great, and then he just goes off and, goes back to programming. And so did he take this journey with you, or is this something that you've, kind of pushed, or are you...
It's more of lead by example. So it took about 5 years to get him on board with the food, but he's such a good sport now. And he's just starting in the next year. He says he's going to be better with his schedule. So
hey,
it's been it's 40
progress.
years.
See? Making progress.
Baby
Perfect.
steps.
All right. Well,
Thank
that's
you.
about enough. Thank you so
This
much,
was so
Jean.
fun. Thank you,
Please
guys.
come talk to Jean because she's amazing
you.
and delightful.
Thank you. Thanks, Courtney.